Welcome to the deep dive.
Mhm.
We're here to tackle some really big ideas and hopefully distill them into insights you can actually use.
Yeah, get right down to the practical stuff.
Exactly. So today we're setting out on, well, a pretty ambitious journey. We want to uncover the kind of bedrock of enduring success.
The fundamentals.
Right. Okay, let's really try and unpack this. What are those often hidden mechanisms, the things that drive, huge business wins, and that feeling of real personal achievement?
It's a big question.
It is. And we've dug into a really rich set of sources for this deep dive. I mean, it's a real treasure trove. We've got landmark works on strategy, leadership, personal development, even finance.
A real mix, yeah, showing
That's
how interconnected it all is.
That's the idea. So our mission, we want to pull out those key nuggets of knowledge and honestly some really surprising facts too, all designed to arm you, the listener, with practical insights, things you can use to build lasting success in whatever you're doing. And we're not just listing things. We're going to try and connect these dots, these different ideas, into a framework that makes sense. Give you some clarity in all the noise.
Absolutely. That's what really excites me about this. True understanding, I think, doesn't just come from seeing what people or companies achieve.
Right.
It's digging into the how, and maybe even more importantly, the why. Why do some succeed consistently over the long haul?
Yeah, the underlying principles.
Exactly. We're looking past the quick fixes, the surface stuff. We want to get to the, let's call it the operating system of success.
I like that. The operating system.
And you'll find, as we explore these sources, that insights pop up from everywhere. History, different industries, things you wouldn't expect. But they often reveal these universal truths about strategy, leadership, personal drive.
Timeless patterns.
That's it, timeless patterns. It's less about memorizing formulas, more about grasping the deeper logic behind it all.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the world of business. It's really tempting, isn't it, to think, okay, if I just work harder or if I make my product just a little bit better than the next guy.
Yeah, the incremental improvement trap.
Exactly. But Hamilton Helmer, in his book, Seven Powers, makes this brilliant point. Long-term success. It's not about being slightly better. It's about carving out a truly defensible position, something competitors just can't easily copy.
He really hammers that home.
He does. He says a Me Too approach.
Yes.
Well, it won't cut it. And he defines this idea of power not as like brute force, but as something more elegant. It's the ability to keep generating solid cash flow, even when competitors are doing everything they can to eat your lunch.
It's like a protective shield, a sustainable advantage.
Yeah, like a business superpower, almost invisible sometimes, that lets it thrive while others struggle.
That's such a critical distinction, and it's where I think a lot of companies kind of miss the mark. If you don't have those identifiable powers, those durable edges,
We're vulnerable.
you're totally vulnerable. You're operating on a tightrope, basically. Always at risk, always reacting to competitors, struggling for consistent cash flow.
Right.
Think about a giant like IBM. You'd think invincible, right? But they famously missed the whole mini computer boom back in the
A
day.
huge miss.
Massive. It wasn't just a small oversight. Their stock tanked, market share dropped. It really forced them, kind of humbled them, into opening their minds to totally new ways of doing things.
That led to Project Chess, didn't it?
Exactly, Project Chess. Their audacious plan to build a PC in just a year. It shows how even the big guys, the established players, have to adapt when their old power fades or when new markets just completely shake things up.
So it's not just what you do, it's also about where you decide to compete. That's strategic choice.
Precisely. And that connects directly to Michael Porter's foundational stuff in competitive strategy.
Porter, yeah.
Right. He introduced this idea that an industry isn't just one big battlefield where everyone fights the same way. No, it has distinct strategic groups.
Okay, what does that mean exactly? Strategic groups.
It means firms within the same industry can be positioned very differently. Think discount airlines versus luxury full-service carriers. Same industry air travel, but totally different strategies, different customers, different cost structures.
Gotcha.
And the profit potential, Porter showed, varies massively depending on which group you're in and how unique your position is within it. It's not just about how well you execute. It's about the fundamental strategic choices you make.
So you need a distinct strategy, not just trying to be good at everything.
You got it. You don't have to win everywhere. You have to pick your battles, your strategic ground, very carefully.
Okay, so if Me Too is out and strategic groups matter, How do companies actually build these advantages?
Yeah.
Let's take that Netflix example, the DVD business back in, 2003. Helmer talks about this.
Yeah, it's a classic case.
He saw their power coming from counter-positioning against Blockbuster. It's a giant, right? For you, the listener, think about it. Netflix's mail-order model wasn't just a bit better. It was something Blockbuster literally couldn't copy easily. Why? Because it would mean dismantling their own huge, profitable network of physical stores.
They were trapped by their own success, in a way.
Exactly. That inability for the big incumbent to copy the challenger without basically shooting themselves in the foot, that's counterpositioning.
Yeah.
Beautiful and brutal.
It really is. And Helmer points out it wasn't just counterpositioning for Netflix. They also had what he calls process power.
Okay, process power, like how they did things.
Yeah, the efficiencies, the sort of proprietary advantages they built into their whole system. DVD distribution, customer service, their recommendation algorithms.
The stuff behind the scenes.
Right. Think about how they optimized their warehouses, the shipping, everything. Blockbuster couldn't just buy that off the shelf. Netflix built those capabilities over time, made them faster, cheaper, more reliable.
And there was something else too, scale.
A bit, yeah. Modest spatial distribution scale economies, Helmer calls it, compared to other DVD by mail startups. Their early lead with distribution centers meant they could get DVDs to you faster and cheaper than any newbie trying to build a national network from scratch.
So it wasn't just one thing, it was a combo.
Definitely. A combination of interlocking advantages, counterpositioning, process power, some scale economies. It built this moat around their business that was incredibly tough for anyone, especially Blockbuster, to cross. Made them look simple on the surface, but underneath, really complex.
All right, so once a company has that strategic vision, maybe even a bit of that power starting to form, the next big hurdle is innovation, right? Finding totally new ways to grow instead of just fighting bloody battles in existing markets.
Yeah, the red ocean versus the blue ocean.
Exactly. That's where W. Chan Kim and Renee Malborn come in with blue ocean strategy.
Right.
They make this really useful distinction. We hear a lot about creative destruction.
Like digital cameras killing film.
Right. Where innovation basically displaces or kills an old market. But Kim and Malborn focus more on what they call non-destructive creation.
Okay, what's the difference?
Non-destructive creation doesn't necessarily mean destroying anything. It's about creating entirely new market spaces, tapping into demand that didn't exist before.
Ah, like Cirque du Soleil.
Perfect example. They blended circus and theater, created something totally new. They didn't need to put Ringling Brothers out of business to succeed. They created their own blue ocean.
That's a critical shift in mindset, isn't it? From competing to creating, which raises big question. How do companies actually escape what Kim and Malborn call the red ocean trap?
Yeah, that pull towards just focusing on your existing customers, fighting over the same pie.
Exactly. How do you break free? Well, the key insight, they argue, often lies not with your current customers, but with your non-customer.
The people who aren't buying from you or anyone in your industry.
Right. Understand why they aren't participating. What are their pain points? What limits them? That's where you find the clues to unlock completely new markets. You're hunting for those unarticulated needs.
And often these opportunities, these sort of bad obvious paths, pop up when the market changes in ways incumbents just can't or won't adapt to. Reid Hoffman and Chris Yad talk about this in blitzscaling.
Incumbent inertia.
Yeah. Like Charles Schwab. Classic example. He built this massive financial empire, basically, by jumping on the deregulation of brokerage commissions.
Well, the old guard was stuck.
Totally stuck. The established full-service brokerages were tied to their high fees, slow to react. Schwab saw the opening, launched a discount brokerage, and boom, changed the game for investing access. He found a blue ocean right inside a red one.
It's a perfect case study. One company's limitation is another's wide open door. And this ties straight into Clayton Christensen's work, too, The Innovator's Dilemma.
Ah, disruption theory.
Right. Christensen noticed that companies that did successfully handle disruptive technologies often didn't try to cram them into their existing business units.
What did they do instead?
They created separate, independent organizations, little skunkworks teams almost, whose size and structure actually matched the new, often initially small, opportunity.
So they protected the new thing from the old thing.
Exactly. It allowed them to nurture these innovations that, inside the main company, might have just been crushed or ignored because they didn't serve the big existing customers right away. It's a masterclass in organizational agility.
It almost sounds like a company's own success, its own internal map of the market, can become its biggest blind spot.
Absolutely spot on. That goes right to the heart of ideas in books like Strategic Flexibility and even Covey's 7 Habits. The classic, the map is not the territory, meaning different companies, different players in a market often have fundamentally different mental models of how that market works. They see it differently. And that gap, that divergence in perception, that's precisely where the opportunities lie for new competitors to come in and redefine the whole game. They see possibilities where the incumbents stuck in their old maps just can't grasp.
Got an example?
Sure. Take Seagate, the disk drive maker Christensen studied. When those smaller 3.5-inch drives first came out, their main customers, the big desktop PC makers, didn't care about them. They weren't smaller, they weren't more rugged, things that mattered to, say, the emerging laptop market. The desktop guys just wanted more capacity, faster performance, which the bigger drives still offered.
So the market for the new, smaller drives seemed tiny and unimportant at first.
Exactly. Tiny, low margin, niche, not interesting to a giant like Seagate focused on high-volume desktops. But, and here's the dilemma. The performance of those little 3.5-inch drives improved rapidly. Eventually, they got good enough, then better, even for desktops.
And the established players were caught flat-footed.
Pretty much. What they dismissed as inferior became the new standard. It shows how a rigid map blinds you. Now, contrast that with Microsoft.
How so?
Instead of just letting hardware get way ahead of what their software needed, creating performance oversupply, Microsoft actively worked to increase the demand. They kept releasing software that needed more memory, faster processors.
Keeping the hardware guys busy.
You got it. They essentially pushed the market forward, kept it hungry for the next hardware improvement. They weren't just reacting to the technology trajectory, they were shaping it, preventing that performance oversupply that could have weakened their position. It's proactive, almost demand creation.
Okay, so often when we think about these legendary companies, right?
Yeah.
We assume it all started with some lightning bolt product idea, that aha moment.
Garage myth.
Right.
Yeah.
But Jim Collins and Jerry Porras in Built to Last, they threw some serious cold water on that idea. It's a really compelling counterargument.
What did they find?
They found that the truly visionary companies often didn't start with a great idea. Crazy, right? Instead, their primary focus, their ultimate creation, was the company itself.
Not the product, but the organization.
Exactly. That shifts the focus completely, away from just one product or service, towards building enduring capabilities, fostering real values, designing systems that can adapt and innovate again and again, not just for 5 years, but for 50 or 100.
That totally flips the script on the typical business school approach, which is often laser-focused on product-market fit and hitting those narrow windows of opportunity.
It does, and what's fascinating is how this idea, the company as the main creation, loops back to blue ocean strategy.
How so?
Well, Kim and Malborn argue that sustained growth isn't about finding one blue ocean and just staying there forever. It's about continuously creating blue oceans, reinventing market space over and over.
So perpetual innovation.
Right. And while maybe no single product lasts forever, the companies we call visionary, they're the ones with the powerful brands, the deep capabilities that manage to repeatedly create new market space. They excel not by clinging to one hit, but by mastering the process of innovation and renewal.
So the company itself becomes the innovation engine, the ultimate creation.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
And Built to Last really drives home the importance of authentic core values in making that happen.
Not just generic mission statements.
No way. They argue core ideology, your fundamental values and purpose, shouldn't come from copying others or just doing what seems pragmatic or profitable right now. It has to capture what people inside the organization authentically believe, deep down.
That internal compass.
Yeah, that shared sense of purpose is what gives a company its strength, its resilience, its ability to attract the right people. It's the soul of the thing.
And just having values isn't enough, right? You have
Right.
to translate them into actual strategic choices.
Absolutely. A.G. Lafley and Roger Martin in Playing to Win talk about this brilliantly with their strategic choice cascade.
Cascade, okay.
Yeah, it's not just a list. It's 5 interconnected questions leaders have to constantly grapple with. What's our winning aspiration? Where are we going to play? How will we win there? What capabilities do we need to win? And what management systems do we need to support all that?
So it forces tough choices.
Exactly. And they stress these choices have to be distinctive. They have to fit together coherently. They can't be generic, feel-good, program of the month stuff if you really want to win. It's about making specific, sometimes difficult commitments that set you apart, and then building the whole organization to deliver on those promises.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Moving from the big structures of business to, well, the people inside them, the human element. Let's unpack leadership. It's so easy to think of leadership as, that charismatic figure, the hero on the white horse.
Yeah, the sort of great man theory.
Right. But strategic flexibility, that book by Hamel, Pralad, and Thomas, paints a much more nuanced picture, and frankly, a more realistic one.
What's their take? They argue leadership isn't just one person's charisma. It's multifaceted. A leader is a facilitator, a teacher, an inspirer. Their main job is to provide a clear vision, sure, but then it's about coordinating everything, the activities, the resources, to actually make it happen.
Less about individual glory, more about enabling the team.
Exactly. Orchestrating success rather than just commanding it.
That's a really important reframing. It connects to what John C. Maxwell talks about in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He makes this crucial point. Just because someone puts you in charge, that doesn't automatically make you a leader.
Authority versus influence.
Precisely. Power can be given, but leadership has to be earned. It's a skill, something you learn, develop consciously. You can't just rely on raw energy or charm. It's a craft you have to hone, and often it's about the quiet things, the integrity, how you act when things are tough.
So if it's learnable and not just about charisma, what are the skills that really move the needle?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Daniel Goleman's work on emotional intelligence is just critical here.
EQ.
Right. In What Makes a Leader, he breaks down EQ into things like self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, social skill. And he shows these aren't just nice-to-haves. They are fundamental drivers of outstanding leadership performance.
Okay, but can you actually learn that stuff? Or are you just born with it?
That's the really powerful part. Goleman argues, quite convincingly, that you can learn it. You can become more self-aware, more empathetic, with conscious effort. And interestingly, he notes it often increases with age and experience.
Wow. So you're not stuck with the EQ you have now?
Not at all, which is incredibly empowering, right?
Yeah.
Anyone can work on this and improve their leadership impact.
That's a huge takeaway. It almost sounds like a leader needs to be adaptable, like a chameleon, changing their style depending on the situation.
Exactly right. Goleman talks about this more in Leadership That Gets Results. He says effective executives need to be able to switch between different leadership styles fluidly. Use the right style at the right time in the right measure.
Like what kind of styles?
Well, think about it. The coercive do-what-I-say style may be needed in a crisis for a quick turnaround, but use it too much, and it kills morale.
Right.
Then there's the authoritative come-with-me style. Great when a team is adrift and needs clear direction. The affiliative people-come-first style builds harmony. The democratic what-do-you-think approach gets buy-in.
So different tools for different jobs.
Exactly. Each style impacts the team's climate differently. The best leaders have a repertoire and know when to deploy each one. And, let's not forget self-regulation in all this.
Controlling your own emotions.
Yeah. Goleman points out that mastering your emotions, staying calm under pressure, being comfortable with ambiguity, acting with integrity, these often don't get the credit they deserve. Sometimes a thoughtful, considered response gets mistaken for, a lack of passion.
Interesting.
But those uncontrolled outbursts, rarely good leadership. It's about that steady hand, especially when things get rough. #tag 2.2, building and empowering high-performing teams.
Okay, so leaders aren't working alone. Their real impact comes through their teams, right? How they build them, empower them.
Absolutely. It's all about the collective.
So let's shift focus to the team itself. Extreme Ownership, that book by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, has this really radical idea about responsibility.
Yeah, it turns things upside down a bit.
It does. They argue that if you're a team member, a subordinate, and you don't fully get the why behind a decision from leadership, or you don't really believe in it, it's your job to ask questions, to push back respectfully until you understand.
Take ownership of your understanding.
Exactly. Because if you don't grasp the why, you can't truly believe in the mission. And without that belief, execution suffers. It's a call for everyone to be proactively engaged, not just passively follow orders.
That's a real game changer for how teams operate, moving beyond just compliance And on a more sort of day-to-day level, think about the new one-minute manager.
Lanchard and Johnson.
Yeah. They talk about a technique that's super effective but often gets overlooked. Catching people doing something right.
Focusing on the positive.
Right. But it's not just vague praise. It's specific, timely reinforcement, especially when someone's learning something new or working on a challenging project. It builds confidence, reinforces the right behaviors. It helps people reach their potential much faster than just pointing out mistakes. Creates a positive cycle.
Okay, so you nurture the individual,
Mm.
but how does that scale up? How do you get that synergy for real team performance?
Well, what's fascinating is how these principles combine. Katzenbach and Smith, in The Discipline of Teams, found that really high-performing teams, they're usually small.
How small?
Ideally, fewer than 10 people. Small enough for real interaction, real mutual understanding. And crucially, they hold themselves accountable not just individually, but mutually.
Mutually accountable, meaning
It's not just, did I do my part? It's, did we as a team achieve our goal? There's a collective responsibility for the outcome. They're also incredibly flexible, helping each other out, developing new skills together. That mutual accountability is key. It's way beyond just a group of individuals working in parallel.
that idea is so powerful. Makes me think about how some companies are changing their whole structure now.
Definitely. Eric Ries, in the Lean Startup, takes this even further. He recommends setting up organizations with cross-functional teams.
Teams with different skills mixed together.
Right. And making them accountable, not to traditional departmental metrics, but to learning milestones. It's a big shift.
Learning milestones, like finding out if an idea works.
Exactly. It fosters rapid experimentation, adaptation, constant learning, which is vital when things are changing fast. Now, initially, teams might feel like, hey, this is less productive in the old sense, but it's about iterating towards the right answer, not just efficiently executing a potentially wrong plan.
Gotcha. And what's the end goal of all this? Team structures, empowerment.
Ultimately, it comes down to what Andy Grove wrote about in High Output Management. A team's performance is entirely dependent on getting peak performance from the individuals in it.
Makes sense.
And he had this brilliant analogy. Businesses, he said, should plan like a fire department plans.
How does a fire department
Well, they don't try to predict every single fire, right? Impossible. Instead, they focus on building a highly skilled, well-equipped, super efficient team that can respond effectively to whatever happens. The unanticipated.
So focus on readiness, not prediction.
Exactly. Build the capability, the cross-training, the clear communication, the shared purpose, so that when chaos hits, because it will, the team can react cohesively and effectively. It's all about resilience and readiness.
Let's dig into some more of that timeless wisdom on management and culture. Peter Drucker. You got to mention Drucker.
The legend. Yeah.
In the practice of management, he lays out the manager's job. And it's way more than just giving orders. It's making decisions, sure, but also real problem solving. Like getting past the symptoms to find the root causes, the critical factors.
Not just firefighting.
Right. And also continuous development of yourself and your people. He saw these as vital for keeping an organization healthy, dynamic, able to adapt.
Drucker's insights are just pure gold, and he took it down to the individual level, too. In managing oneself, he asks this really profound question, especially for knowledge workers. How do I perform?
Meaning, how do I work best?
Exactly. Do you work best under pressure or need quiet? Are you a reader or a listener? Do you work better alone or collaborating? He stresses that this stuff is deep personality, formed early, hard to change.
So you need to understand yourself first.
Absolutely. And the big implication, managing oneself means knowing these things and then actively shaping your work, your environment to match your strengths. You essentially become the CEO of your own career, taking full responsibility for your performance and growth.
Wow, that's a huge leap from just being an employee taking directions.
Yeah.
Requires serious self-awareness.
It really does. Which, raises another important question. How do leaders get people to buy in, truly commit, beyond just doing what they're told?
Yeah, that deep loyalty. How does that happen?
Howard Schultz, the Starbucks guy, offers a really compelling perspective in Pour Your Heart Into It. He believed passionately that leaders have this deep responsibility to the people doing the daily work. The frontline folks.
The baristas, in his case.
Right. He famously said, Starbucks built its brand first with its people, not with consumers. They invested in their employees, treated them as partners, gave them benefits, fostered this passion for coffee. And those passionate employees became the best possible brand ambassadors.
So the people came first, and the brand followed.
That was the philosophy. Schultz truly believed that doing well financially and doing good for people and communities weren't opposites. They were interdependent. Leading with heart, following that internal compass, passion, commitment, giving back, that was his driver, not just profits.
That really resonates with Stephen Covey, too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Covey in Seven Habits puts it so bluntly. Character communicates most eloquently. If people sense a leader's character is flawed or their motives aren't genuine,
Doesn't matter how smooth they talk.
exactly. Even the best human relations techniques will just feel manipulative, build distrust. True leadership, lasting influence, comes from integrity, from authenticity, from genuine care. It's about who you are, fundamentally.
Okay, let's pivot now from the organization to the individual. Let's talk about personal mastery. Those habits, those disciplines that translate into high performance and sometimes surprisingly into building wealth too.
Yeah, the micro habits that have macro effects.
Right. Cal Newport's Deep Work introduces this really relevant idea for our crazy, distracted world. The deep work limit.
The limit.
Yeah, he suggests that even the sharpest minds can probably only sustain maybe 4 hours max of truly intense, focused, undistracted thinking each day.
Only 4 hours. Wow.
And he points out that all the other stuff, the shallow work emails, meetings, scrolling it, only becomes really dangerous when it squeezes out that essential deep work time.
And it so easily does squeeze it out.
Totally. Our calendars get filled with the shallow stuff, leaving no room for the kind of thinking that actually moves the needle.
That 4-hour limit is powerful because it forces you to be incredibly protective of that time, which ties into Tim Ferriss, right? The 4-hour work week.
Yes. Controversial, but interesting ideas.
Definitely. His core argument isn't really about only working 4 hours, but about being radically productive within the time you do work.
Out.
By maximizing output in minimum time and, crucially, only doing things that are genuinely important. The stuff that directly moves you towards your biggest goals.
Cutting out the fluff.
Totally. His advice: identify your 1 or 2 absolute must-do tasks for the day, the real priorities, and knock them out first thing, before the chaos of the day descends. It's about ruthless prioritization and intentionality.
And what's amazing is how these seemingly simple personal disciplines connect to something as tangible as building wealth. It's not just about productivity.
No, it's fascinating how they lay the foundation. George Clason, in that classic, The Richest Man in Babylon, puts it so simply. Preceding accomplishment must be desire. Thy desires must be strong and definite.
Strong and definite desires.
He shows how building wealth or achieving anything big really starts small. With definite, achievable desires. You hit those small goals, it trains you, gives you confidence, builds the capability to go after bigger ones. It's incremental.
Building momentum.
Exactly. And he also hammers home the need to master the spirit of procrastination. You got to conquer that inertia, that tendency to put things off before you can really expect to achieve significant results. Consistent, focused action is the key.
So small, definite goals consistently pursued. Overcoming procrastination.
That's the essence. And look, this isn't just ancient parables. Stanley and Danko in The Millionaire Next Door found the same thing in modern times.
What did their research show?
They studied actual millionaires and found that, even for people earning high incomes, the primary driver of wealth accumulation wasn't usually a massive salary or inheritance. It was good old-fashioned self-discipline, hard work, perseverance, planning, and crucially, living below their means.
The boring stuff.
The boring stuff that works. It's a powerful reminder of the compounding effect of consistent, disciplined habits over decades. It's not about flashy lifestyles. It's about systematically saving and investing. Hashtag 3.2, the genesis of ingenuity and continuous learning.
Beyond discipline, though, there's this other crucial piece. That relentless curiosity, that commitment to always be learning, that seems foundational too.
Oh, absolutely. Lifelong learning isn't just a buzzword.
Think about Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
His autobiography is amazing. He talks about getting into electricity experiments, starting with these imperfect demonstrations he saw.
He just jumped in.
Yeah. And he admits he wasn't great at first,
Right.
but it was much practice, just doing it, tinkering, adding new experiments, observing closely. That's what led to his expertise and reputation. It wasn't just reading books. It was hands-on, persistent exploration, that spirit of discovery.
That's a perfect example of learning by doing, fueled by curiosity. And it raises that key question. How do you keep that spirit alive, not just for one project, but over a whole career, a whole lifetime?
Yeah, how do you stay adaptable?
Well, Carlota Perez, writing about finance and technology, talks about Schumpeter's idea of innovation. And she introduces this concept of innovative routines that build up over time into a techno-economic paradigm.
Okay, that sounds complex. Break it down.
Basically, it means shared ways of doing things, best practices that emerge and become common sense within an industry. But the interesting part is, this doesn't just apply to industries, it applies to us as individuals. Successful people often develop their own personal innovative routines, their own systems for continuous learning, experimenting, adapting their skills.
So you need your own personal R&D process.
Kind of, yeah. Building a system for lifelong growth. It's not just about one big breakthrough skill, it's about the habit of acquiring new ones.
So it's not static. You need mechanisms that evolve.
Precisely. Jim Collins touches on this too, with his idea of catalytic mechanisms in turning goals into results. These aren't fixed rules, they're dynamic systems that help drive progress and innovation, and they often change over time.
Like the 3M example.
Exactly. The famous 15% rule at 3M. Initially, it let scientists spend 15% of their time on their own pet projects, led to things like Post-it notes. But later, that rule evolved, expanded. It shows that even the systems we create for our own growth need to adapt to stay effective.
So you need to constantly tweak your own learning process.
You do.
Yeah.
Just like a company needs to refresh its strategy, you need to refresh how you learn, how you innovate personally, always experimenting with new ways to grow. Keep that personal R&D lab running. Hashtag 3.3 accompany the character ethic and win-win approaches to relationships.
Okay, so we've talked discipline, learning, but true, lasting success, it seems, goes deeper than just individual achievement. It involves our character, our relationships.
The ethical dimension, yeah, absolutely crucial.
Stephen Covey, again in 7 Habits, makes this really critical distinction between the personality ethic and the character ethic.
Okay, personality versus character.
Right. The personality ethic. That's all about charm, techniques, image management, how to influence people with tactics. Might work short-term, Covey says, but it's ultimately shallow.
Superficial.
Exactly. The character ethic, on the other hand, builds success on bedrock principles. Integrity, honesty, courage, fairness,
Why?
real character strength. Covey's line is unforgettable. You always reap what you sow. There is no shortcut in relationships.
You can't fake trust long term.
You just can't.
Yeah.
And that foundation of character leads directly to his idea of think win-win. It's a core principle for how you interact with people.
Not just win-lose or lose-win.
No. It demands a genuine effort to find solutions that are mutually beneficial. Investing in the relationship itself. Seeking outcomes where everyone feels good about it. Not just that they didn't get totally screwed over. And this applies everywhere. Business, family, friendships.
What's really striking is how deep these ideas run historically. It's not just modern self-help. Max Weber in The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism.
A classic.
Right. He looked at the rise of capitalism and found something surprising. Early capitalism, he argued, actually valued methodical, reliable, principled conduct. The calling, shaping your whole life rationally, ethically. It had little use for the undisciplined or unscrupulous, even if they seemed clever in the short term.
So integrity was almost baked in from the start.
In a way, yeah. That methodical, principled approach Weber described, it echoes Covey's character ethic. Shows its timeless value for building trust and sustainable productivity.
So it's not just nice, it's actually effective.
Hugely effective. And Covey also shows how our underlying beliefs, our mental paradigms, totally shape our results. His example, the manager who says they want teamwork,
But
then sets up internal competitions where people have to fight each other for resources or praise. The system contradicts the goal. Your internal map is flawed, so your results will be too.
the actions don't match the words.
Exactly. And linking back to win-win, Covey makes the point that any agreement, any deal, is pretty meaningless on paper.
If the trust isn't there.
Precisely. Without the underlying character and relationship base to sustain it in spirit, it falls apart. Real influence, real partnerships come from genuine character and that authentic desire for mutual benefit, not just clever tactics. It's about building up that emotional bank account with people.
Okay, let's zoom out again to the broader market. Let's talk about capital, how it flows, how it drives things, creates wealth,
Yeah.
but also the risks involved.
Yeah, the engine of the economy, but it can overheat.
Right. John Maynard Keynes, in his huge work, The General Theory, offered some really deep insights here. He explained how our collective views about the future optimism, pessimism, have this massive impact on jobs and the whole economy.
Expectations drive reality.
Pretty much. He highlighted this key mechanism. Companies keep investing in new stuff, factories, tech, projects, only up to the point where what they expect to earn back.
The marginal efficiency of capital.
Right. equals the cost of borrowing or using that capital, the interest rate.
So if the future looks gloomy, expected returns drop, borrowing seems expensive, investment just dries up.
And jobs and growth dry up with it. Expectations are incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Now, for you, the individual trying to navigate all this as an investor, Burton Malkiel's A Random Walk Down Wall Street offers some grounding advice.
A classic for investors.
Yeah. He points out this fundamental truth that often gets drowned out by the daily noise. If you hold on to common stocks for a reasonably long time, say 25 years or more,
Patience is key.
patience massively reduces the wild swings, the variability, and historically it has consistently delivered pretty generous average returns, like around 10% a year. It really underscores the value of just staying the course, tuning out the short-term panic or euphoria.
So macro expectations drive the big picture. Individual patience helps navigate it. But what about the role of government and the darker side?
Right. Milton Friedman in Capitalism and Freedom acknowledged that, yeah, pretty much everyone agrees the government has a role in monetary stuff, managing money supply, interest rates.
Someone has to.
Sure. But he also warned that control over money is incredibly powerful. It needs real institutional limits, checks and balances to stop it from being misused or undermining freedom. It's that constant tightrope walk. Enough regulation for stability, but not so much it strangles everything.
And when those controls slip or markets just go wild, things can get pretty dicey.
Oh, definitely. We've seen times when capital becomes exceedingly cheap, as the book The Everything Store described Amazon's experience in the dot-com boom.
They raised tons of money with hardly any profits.
Exactly. Junk bonds, convertible debt, super low interest rates. Investors were just throwing money at dot-coms, caught up in the hype. Shows how sentiment can create huge funding waves, but that wave can crash hard.
Like in 2008.
Precisely. Michael Lewis's The Big Short, Dan Ariely's Predictably Irrational. They paint this vivid picture of the subprime mortgage crisis. A system where, as Lewis put it so bluntly, Wall Street didn't give a shit what it sold.
Ooh.
Yeah. You had 9J loans, no income, no job or assets, basically giving mortgages to anyone who could fog a mirror. That kind of craziness eventually required regulators to step in, not just to clean up the mess, but to fight, as Ariely says, our own worst tendencies, our biases, our greed. It's a stark reminder that even sophisticated markets can be corrupted by human nature and ethical failures. Hashtag 4.2, the art of influence and effective communication in the marketplace.
Okay, finally, let's broaden out to the art of influence. Communication. How do ideas, products, services actually get noticed and gain traction in this super crowded world?
Yeah, cutting through the noise, hugely important.
Eugene Schwartz's breakthrough advertising. It starts with something almost obvious, but fundamental. Copy's first job, of course, is to be read.
If they don't read it, nothing else matters.
Exactly, and he dives into techniques like intensification, painting these vivid pictures of satisfaction, making the reader almost feel the benefit, building that desire layer by layer. Or using momentum builders, clever phrases, questions, incomplete thoughts that just pull the reader along.
Drawing them deeper in.
Right. His key insight. Advertising isn't just words. It's a planned sequence of reactions happening inside the prospect's head. You're engineering a response.
It's applied psychology, really. And David Ogilvy, the father of advertising, echoes this in Ogilvy on Advertising. He was adamant. The main job is to communicate effectively, not just be clever or funny.
Substance over style.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Entertainment might grab attention, sure, but if it doesn't persuade, it's failed. Ogilvy said successful campaigns usually promise one big, clear benefit. And crucially, they measure communication rigorously before writing, after production, in test markets. Make sure the message actually lands.
A very disciplined approach to creativity.
Totally. Scientific advertising, almost.
That focus on effectiveness makes sense.
Yeah.
But how has communication changed? It's not just one-way ads anymore, right?
No way. What's fascinating is the shift towards earning attention. Seth Godin talks about this in Permission Marketing.
Permission marketing.
The idea is, instead of interrupting people, you offer them something valuable, information, entertainment, a discount in exchange for their attention. You earn their permission to communicate further.
Building a relationship first.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. You gradually increase the level of permission over time, permission to get more data, send more relevant messages, offer new things. It's moving from shouting at everyone to having a conversation with interested people. More respectful, more effective.
That sounds very customer-focused. Almost like the product itself needs to evolve based on that conversation.
It absolutely does. Theodore Levitt's classic article, Marketing Myopia, hammered this home decades ago. His fundamental point: any industry, any business has to start with the customer and their needs, not with your patent or your raw material or your sales skills.
The railroads example.
The classic. They failed because they thought they were in the railroad business, not the transportation business. They missed the changing needs. Levitt warned that product obsolescence is inevitable. If you don't make your product obsolete through innovation, someone else will.
So you have to stay paranoid, always focused on the customer's future needs.
Constantly vigilant, not just focused on polishing yesterday's apple.
It's all about catching that next wave. And sometimes those big waves start small, don't they?
Precisely. Which brings us to Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. His core idea: sometimes little changes can somehow have big effects, like a snowball rolling downhill, a geometric progression.
The butterfly effect, kind of?
Yeah. It highlights how small, focused efforts in communication, influence, product design, if they hit the right leverage point, can trigger disproportionately huge results. Spreading an idea, launching a trend, it's about finding and activating those critical tipping points, that focused effort leading to exponential impact. #outro.
Wow. Okay. So what does all this mean for you listening right now? We've covered a lot of ground: strategic thinking, adaptable leadership, personal discipline, navigating markets, influence.
A real whirlwind tour.
It has been. But hopefully, what's emerging is a clearer picture. Enduring success, it's not some secret code or just getting lucky.
Yeah.
It looks more like a dynamic mix, right? Timeless principles, yes, but applied diligently and crucially with constant adaptation.
It's not static.
Not at all. It's about consciously building that strategic power, fostering real values, leading with emotional intelligence, mastering yourself through focus, understanding how capital and communication flow. It's weaving it all together.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought, a provocative one, perhaps, for you to chew on. It comes from Peter Drucker again, from Managing Oneself.
Okay, what did Drucker say?
He observed this profound challenge, and it feels even more true today. He said most people don't actually know how they get things done. They often work in ways that aren't really aligned with their own strengths, their own nature.
Working against the grain, essentially.
Yeah. And he stated pretty bluntly that managing oneself in today's world requires new and unprecedented things from us, especially knowledge workers. It demands we literally think and behave like a chief executive officer of our own lives, our own careers.
That is a huge responsibility, taking complete ownership, not just of the what, but the how.
It absolutely is. So here's the provocation, Freno. Given all these strategies, all these leadership insights, all these personal disciplines we've unpacked today, the very blueprints for building success, are we truly ready? Are you ready to embrace that level of radical self-management, that continuous adaptation?
Or is it easier to just stay put?
Or do we, maybe subconsciously, resist that fundamental shift, preferring the familiar, even if it's less effective? Staying put in those old patterns, it's a deep question to ponder as you navigate your own path. Because ultimately, the choice to lead yourself or just be led by circumstance, well, that choice is always yours.